Hi, welcome. On this video, again, focusing in on what makes a system of training very special, what sets it apart from any other system out there based, again, on an interaction based approach. But at the same time, line this up through my parenting example, which I would encourage you as a dog owner to really think about because the problems that are generated within the dog training world by way of how this idea is applied are the same problems that would be generated through approaching a relationship problem the same way in terms of using motivating agents minute one into a relationship problem to generate a series of responses and just selling it that way, in a very superficial way without any sort of depth, without context, without being dialed in properly, just as a parent would. Again, understanding where you're at in the relationship. And again, showing very clearly that it's not the dogs that are at fault here. It's actually this idea itself with how it's applied that way. Now, one of the things again, in terms of the proactive nature of this system, and again, line this up, in terms of my example, but really beginning to understand when you look at my videos, and it can be very challenging for people who are filtering everything through a certain lens to understand, what these interactions are doing. Okay, so again, when you look at how I'm interacting with dogs, it really will, challenge people because it'd be like, what's Dale doing here? Why is he correcting a dog? Okay, you'll see, how I'm engaging at a certain level in a very proactive way, which throws people off. And then why isn't he rewarding the dog? Okay, at a certain point when the dog goes into a certain position. Well, it's because I understand where I'm at. Okay, I'm dialed in, at a deeper level in terms of, again, through this system of training, understanding, reconciling your role in the relationship, but also, reconciling the role of influence by way of a process that advocates properly. Dogs are motivated to come into agreement with these interactions, which change perceptions of dogs the right way and are connected to diminishment of unwanted behaviors by way of control in relationship. So, therefore, it takes a proactive approach. Okay, and the proactive approach representing, again, going back to my parent example, it would be the same thing as once as a parent, you understand where you're at in the relationship. Saying, you know what, my child, their attitude's really poor. I'm dealing with a whole bunch of behavioral issues. And it's the moment that you truly recognize that for where you're at. And so you're engaged differently. You're starting to come into a different parenting styles. And so, and so you're proactive in the sense of as soon as your feet hit the floor in the morning, before you can get your shower, you're in tune, right? You're engaged, you're advocating, you're interacting with, you're not passive in that. And so, because again, understand it's the same type of thing. You're not in a reactionary mode. You're not in a, passive role. And again, so when you look at, again, making the comparisons to say what balanced dog training represents walking in between two parenting styles at the same time, being in a reactionary role at the same time by way of the role of influence. And so people wonder why it is that, you can get into more conflict with dogs when you're using certain devices or tools or, correction, why the optics of that are called into question. It's because of how these trainers are dialed in. They're not dialed in that same way. They're again aligned with a superficial idea. All right, with motivating dogs that way. So, when they define that they get a problem, it's way beyond, okay, because it's way beyond where they need to be because they're not dialed in properly to begin with. So they're waiting for conflict to, behavioral issues in terms of how they're manifesting at such a level. Then they decide at that point, okay, I'm gonna, administer a correction to the dog, and oftentimes it's not well received because the dog's saying, hold on here a second, this ain't making sense. This person is like, walking in between two opinions here. I'm going to reject it. Okay, and so your level of conflict can oftentimes go through the roof and bad things can happen. So because understand it's a different, they're not dialed in the same way at all because they're not truly understanding where they're standing in the relationship because they're aligned with an idea that way. So again, I really encourage you to think about when I talk about proactive versus reactive, why it is you want to be dialed in properly. You're going to be more successful. The perceptions of dogs are going to change at the level that are needed, especially dealing with some very aggressive dog situations. This is where the system of training really shines that way. And I encourage you to really think about that. But if you have questions about any of it, contact me. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Check out my website. Lots of great information, lots of options in terms of helping dog owners. Thanks for watching.